Hey everyone, welcome to Recap Blitz. On the deck of a magnificent ship, the evening was alive with music and laughter as guests danced gracefully to a beautiful melody. The atmosphere was elegant, the lights shimmering on polished wood and brass, and everyone seemed wrapped in joy. Suddenly, the happiness shattered in an instant. A mysterious man pulled a lever, and a steel cable snapped loose, stretching across the hull with a terrifying force. In an instant, the passengers were split into two groups, thrown into chaos and panic. Among them, Katie, a young woman traveling alone, miraculously escaped without injury. She was small, and the cable's height spared her from the fatal swing. But as she stood frozen, her eyes filled with horror, she watched the entire crew die in front of her, their screams echoing in the night like a haunting melody. The terror of that moment seared itself into her memory forever. 40 years later, during a salvage mission for a sunken ship, EPS discovered that the same vessel, the Antonia Grazia, was once again sinking. Determined to prevent further disaster, she boarded the wreck and, with the help of Mund and Dos, worked tirelessly to seal the hole, letting seawater in. Together, they managed to complete the task, and when they reached the shore, the team prepared to celebrate another successful mission. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy and his team gathered in a bar, relieved after a job well done. That was when a man named Jack Effman approached, introducing himself as part of Mackenzie Bevator Petrel. He revealed that last month, while flying over the sea, he had spotted an abandoned ship in the Bering Strait. Jack demanded 20% of the reward the team would earn for bringing the vessel back to shore. The mere thought of a ship worth millions convinced Captain Murphy and his crew to accept the mission without hesitation. Jack promised to accompany them to locate the ship precisely. As Santos navigated the boat, he noticed a floating object on the radar, 16 kilometers away. Immediately, he informed the captain, who shared the news with his crew. A ship lay ahead, to the north. Their information was incomplete, but Santos carefully slowed the boat, inching forward with caution. Suddenly, the pilot realized the ship was directly ahead, illuminated by the bright lights, and had to brake instantly. At that moment, Dos was outside the ship and was swept into the sea by the impact. By sheer luck and quick thinking, he grabbed a rope and climbed back aboard, narrowly escaping death. After the collision, Captain Murphy tried to contact any potential survivors aboard the Antonia Grazia, but there was no response. The ship was eerily empty. Murphy revealed to the team that this was the same vessel that had vanished on May 21st, 1962, without sending any distress signal. The Antonia Grazia had disappeared suddenly, sparking a 40-year search. Now, knowing the potential fortune that awaited them if they succeeded, the team devised a plan to bring the ship back to shore. To do so, they needed to inspect every corner carefully. Murphy cautioned everyone to remain vigilant, as 40 years of decay might have weakened the floors, making them unstable and dangerous. During the inspection, the team discovered that not only were all the lifeboats missing, but the emergency lockers were also empty. Passing through the main hall, Murphy sensed something was off. Mund, examining a wall clock, suddenly saw it chime unexpectedly. The group froze in fear for a moment, then continued their search, unaware that dice on a nearby table had moved on their own, forming a message that read, "Welcome." Murphy explained that over 600 passengers had been aboard the ship, all from Europe's high society. When the team reached the second deck, Mund led the search. Suddenly, the floor beneath his feet collapsed, and he began to fall. His friends reacted instantly, reaching to pull him to safety. During this tense moment, EPS glimpsed the ghost of a young girl watching Mund fall. Once he was saved, EPS looked down again, but the girl had vanished as if she had never been there. Murphy realized something extraordinary was occurring. Concerned for EPS, he decided to stay by her side and help her search through the ship's logbook. During the search, Dos found a digital watch, and the team understood that they were not the first to reach this abandoned ship. Digital watches did not exist in 1962, confirming the ship had seen visitors before them. As darkness fell, Murphy advised the crew to rest, preparing for the next morning's effort to tow the ship safely. Returning to their vessel, Jack questioned Murphy about how the European ship had ended up in the Bering Strait. Murphy recounted the story of the Mary Celeste, a ship that had sailed from Charleston during the Civil War to London, loaded with cotton. 2 months after departure, near Tripoli in Libya, fishermen had spotted the vessel, finding it completely deserted. No passengers, no crew, not even the captain. According to Murphy, 59 days after the last log entry, the ship traveled 8,000 kilometers across the ocean, past the Rock of Gibraltar, and entered the Mediterranean at full speed, under no control. The only explanation for the Mary Celeste mystery was that it was a ghost ship. Murphy feared that they might face a similar fate aboard the Antonia Grazia. Although EPS had not told anyone about the ghostly girl she had seen on the ship, she could not stop thinking about her. Jack noticed her distress from the moment she arrived on the ship. When he asked her about it, EPS described the girl she had seen on the deck, but as she spoke, the ghost suddenly vanished. Trying to comfort her, Jack claimed that he, too, sometimes saw such visions when he drove for long hours. EPS thanked him for the reassurance. In the early morning, EPS, Mund, and Dos went to inspect the ship for structural damage. As they carefully walked along the deck, their eyes fell on a huge hole in the hull. The gaping wound in the ship's side seemed fresh, and it was clear that if it wasn't repaired quickly, the entire vessel would soon sink. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on them. The team realized that before they could tow the ship to safety, this hole had to be sealed. Time was against them. They had only 3 days because if the Antonia Grazia wasn't stopped, the current would carry it into the rocky islands nearby, smashing it to pieces. Mund hurried toward the engine room, determined to check the machinery, while EPS made her way to the ship's bathroom. There, she discovered an empty swimming pool scattered with dozens of bullet casings, as though someone had fired in a frenzy. Climbing the pool stairs to grab the radio and inform the team of her discovery, she suddenly came face to face with the ghost of Katie. A surge of terror gripped her, causing her to stumble and nearly fall, heart pounding in her chest. Meanwhile, Captain Murphy, exploring his office, noticed a razor stained with blood in the bathroom sink. A chilling realization struck him. It had been used to harm someone. As he continued investigating, he found a glass filled with a clear drink and decided to take a sip. But the moment the liquid touched his lips, he saw a horrifying image in the glass's reflection. The ghost of the former captain staring back at him. Panic surged through him, and he bolted from the room, breathless. Shaken but determined, EPS recovered from a slight fainting spell after nearly falling and collided with Jack in the pool. Jack helped her climb out, though neither noticed that blood was slowly oozing from the walls of the bullet holes. Then, without warning, the entire pool filled with a thick, red liquid, floating with the bodies of those shot, their eyes staring lifelessly. Horrified, EPS and Jack moved toward the laundry room, which was completely submerged. Their goal was to reach the front hall, but as they opened a door, an enormous surge of water revealed more corpses hidden within, some not older than a month. The door behind them slammed shut automatically, trapping them inside. With no way out, they decided to continue to the main hall. Inside the main hall, Greer noticed a recently used ashtray and saw a lipstick mark, which he suspected belonged to EPS. He ignored it and moved on, unaware that Francisca was watching him closely. While searching for a way out through the cellar, Jack's attention was caught by a sleek Jaguar parked below. Memories of childhood dreams stirred inside him. He had always wanted a car like this. Meanwhile, EPS saw movement inside a box. Curious, she opened it to discover a swarm of rats and gold bars. Realizing they had no time to linger, she and the team abandoned the gold and continued searching for their friends. Soon, EPS heard her team calling for help over the radio. She followed the voices to the kitchen. When she opened the fridge, she was startled to find Mund and Dos hiding under sheets, waving torches and shouting to scare her. Relief and anger mixed inside EPS as she scolded them for their prank. Gathering her team, EPS shared the grim truth. She had seen floating bodies in the laundry room. After this shocking revelation, the entire crew returned to the cargo compartment to collect gold bars. They found several boxes filled with gold, worth millions. Excited by sudden wealth, most of the team celebrated, but Greer immediately felt uneasy. Something about the treasure didn't feel right. He noted that so much gold was unusual for a passenger ship, and, upon closer inspection, realized the markings on the bars had been erased. Greer concluded that the gold was stolen and claimed the ship was cursed. He also shared that while searching the main hall, he had heard a woman singing, though no one was there, a fact that led others to mock him. Captain Murphy dismissed the warnings, reminding everyone that under maritime law, anything found in international waters belonged to the finders. Still, Greer urged his friends to return to the ship with the gold and leave quickly, sensing impending danger. Meanwhile, Santos worked on repairing the ship, Greer started the engine, and Murphy, with EPS's help, loaded gold bars onto a trolley. Suddenly, Katie appeared, screaming at the team to stop. Her warning came too late. Before she could reach Greer, she fell into the sea. In a panic, Greer pressed a button, triggering a massive explosion that caught Santos and Mund. Seeing her friends in danger, EPS dove into the water and managed to save Mund and Greer, though Santos tragically lost his life. Consumed by anger and grief, Dos attacked Jack, blaming him for sending the team into this dangerous, remote part of the world. Now, survival depended entirely on escaping the Antonia Graza. Greer suggested constructing a small boat to leave the ship immediately, but the rest of the team hesitated. During the heated debate, Greer lost his temper and punched a friend in the nose while arguing in support of EPS. The crew argued among themselves, while Murphy isolated himself, blaming his orders to start the ship's engine for Santos's death. Starving and trapped on the ghost ship, Dos and Mund risked eating canned food. Mund complimented the bean's taste, and Dos began eating with him. But as they continued, they noticed the taste had changed. Looking closer, they realized the cans were infested with worms. In a nearby cabin, Greer drank from a bottle of alcohol, consumed with guilt for not contacting the Coast Guard sooner. Greer sat quietly, staring at the photo of his fiancée, a soft sigh escaping his lips. "I will return to her in time for our wedding," he whispered to himself, clinging to that small thread of hope amidst the chaos surrounding him. Meanwhile, EPS made her way to the bedrooms, searching for Katie. As she walked down the dimly lit corridor, she noticed doors slamming shut on their own. Her heart raced, and fear curled in her chest, but a soft humming drifting from Katie's room caught her attention. Drawn by the sound, she entered the room cautiously. The walls were lined with Katie's drawings, taped to the wardrobe doors, colorful and innocent against the eerie darkness. As EPS opened the wardrobe, her breath caught. Inside lay Katie's skeleton. The sight was shocking, but trembling. She reached for the necklace still hanging around the girl's neck. Nestled within the pendant, she found a tiny photo of Katie's parents. Suddenly, Katie's ghost appeared, shimmering in the air. Her voice was soft yet urgent as she spoke. "I was on my way to New York to see my parents when it happened." Terrified, EPS tried to return the necklace, but it slipped through her hands as though it were weightless. She realized, with a shiver running down her spine, that she was speaking to a spirit. Katie explained that most souls are free to visit their families after dying, but the people who perished on this ship remain trapped. When the Antonia Graza fills with spirits and its quota is complete, Katie warned, everyone will be taken to hell. At that moment, the room shook violently, and the walls seemed to bleed crimson. Katie's last words echoed in EPS's ears. "Leave this ship while you still can," and then she vanished. Elsewhere, Greer, nursing a bottle of alcohol, began to hallucinate. The ship's salon transformed before his eyes, reconstructing itself as it had been when the crew was alive. Francisco appeared, gliding toward him, leaning in for a kiss. She invited him to dance, and for a fleeting moment, Greer felt a pang of desire. But he knew Francisco was dead, only a trick of his mind. Still, unable to resist, he followed her. As he reached out, the illusion turned deadly, and he fell, crashing to the floor. In his cabin, Murphy awoke with a start from a nap when he heard a bottle of alcohol clinking. Before him stood the ghost of Antonia's former captain. Trembling, Murphy received the ship's logbook from the apparition. The captain revealed that gold boxes found in the cargo hold had come from the Lorelei, a ship that disappeared 2 days before the Antonia Graza vanished. The Lorelei had been found adrift in the ocean, with no living passengers. Its captain and crew suffered a grim fate after stealing the gold. Frightened, Murphy rushed to inform his friends, but encountered Santos' ghost, who began tormenting him. The spectral figure claimed that Murphy's mistakes had trapped his soul on this ship. Panic surged through Murphy, and he fled, only to meet EPS. Yet seeing Santos' image so vividly in front of him, Murphy was convinced his life was in immediate danger. In a frenzy, he attacked EPS, trying to kill her. Reflexively, EPS struck him with a metal object, stunning him. Enraged, Murphy grabbed a gun to finish her off, but at that moment, Jack arrived and knocked him unconscious. Mund and Dos, learning what had happened, decided to restrain Murphy to ensure he posed no threat to the team. By morning, the group began inspecting the ship. Greer was nowhere to be found, and they assumed he still wanted to be alone in his anger. So, the team decided to start repairing the vessel without him. By the end of the day, they had made significant progress, successfully pumping out most of the water. As darkness fell, EPS decided to search for Greer again, worried about his safety. During her search, she encountered Katie's ghost once more. The young spirit guided EPS to Greer's body, showing her the horrifying events of the night when the crew had been slaughtered. EPS's shoulder trembled under Katie's gentle touch as she revealed the truth. The crew had been victims of a sinister plot. The cooks had poisoned the soup with rat poison, intending to serve it to the passengers, and then a steel cable had been used to slice through the bodies in the salon gruesomely. Katie had barely escaped, her small frame darting through the shadows of the ship, trying desperately to get away. But before she could find safety, strong hands grabbed her, holding her back. From her terrified vantage point, she saw the rest of the crew being slaughtered one by a ruthless gang. She watched in horror as hundreds of lives were ended in cold blood. Amidst the chaos, one gang member turned against his companions, killing them all in a desperate bid to escape with Francisca. But even his betrayal did not save him. In the end, he too was shot and killed, betrayed by the very people he trusted. Then the singer's lover appeared. He kissed her tenderly, only to trap her in a terrifying snare. When she lost her life, he marked her, a cruel act that would echo through the years. When EPS saw his face, she recognized him immediately. It was Jack, the man responsible for the conspiracy that had destroyed so many lives 40 years ago. The shocking truth hit her like a tidal wave. Panic surged through her veins as she ran to find Murphy, only to discover the captain had already been killed. Jack had opened the water valve, flooding the cabin to drown him. Frantic, EPS smashed at the glass around her, but it was too late. Murphy's life was gone, irretrievable. For several minutes, she wept, grief weighing down every part of her. Then, gathering the strength to move, she steeled herself and ran to warn the only two friends left alive. "Where's Mund?" she shouted, her voice trembling with urgency. "We have to get out of here as fast as possible. This ship was never meant to be repaired. It's a death trap." At that moment, Jack appeared on the deck, sneering, claiming he had seen Murphy lifeless. "What happened?" he demanded, and EPS, terrified, admitted she did not know. She told Dose to stay in the cabin while she pursued Mund, giving her friend a gun for protection. She found him driving through the ship's broken interior, inspecting the massive hull, threatening to sink the vessel. But disaster struck. Mund was swept into a violent current, his body colliding against the engine room gears. When EPS reached the site, she froze, horrified. The water was red with blood, and pieces of Mund's body clung to the wreckage, a gruesome sight that made her stomach churn. Jack decided he would confront EPS personally. Dose ordered him to wait until she returned, but Jack insisted he was ready and attacked Dose, claiming the man was weak and blindly obedient. In a struggle, Dose fired, hitting Jack squarely in the chest. Believing he had committed murder, Dose ran, panic driving him through the dark corridors. But Jack recovered, eyes blazing, and pursued EPS relentlessly. She realized too late that Dose had disappeared. Jack had killed him, planning to deceive EPS into fixing the ship for him. But EPS was not so easily fooled. Guided by the whispers of innocent spirits, like Katie, she understood that Jack could not control the souls of the pure. When Jack realized EPS would not negotiate, he struck her with an iron rod. She plunged into the water, and he followed, intent on finishing her. But EPS reacted swiftly, stabbing his leg with a harpoon, thwarting his attack. Rising from the water, she used the gun not to shoot, but to activate the bomb, which detonated, ripping apart the entire deck. The ship began to sink rapidly, and trapped spirits were finally freed. Katie appeared once more, helping EPS navigate through the wreckage and escape into the ocean. As she surfaced, EPS saw the remaining crew fading before her eyes, vanishing into the sea. Days later, EPS floated, trapped in a gold box in the open water. A passing ship spotted her and rescued her, bringing her safely to shore for treatment. At the harbor, she watched men load gold boxes onto a boat, unaware of the danger still lingering behind her. Jack reappeared, silently stalking them, ready to resume his sinister mission of dragging lost souls to hell. The weight of the past and the horror of the present pressed on EPS as she realized that TH.
Join next time for another story that makes you think and feel. Until then, stay curious and stay safe.